So, hello, my name is Simon Roberts. I'm a certified Scrum trainer based in Scotland in the UK. And I'm going to talk about some experiences I had helping a large European telecommunications company to introduce Scrum at scale. In particular, I'm going to focus on one particular business unit where the organization was able to rescue a failing product. Whilst I'm focusing on one particular business unit, actually we used many of the Scrum at scale concepts throughout the organization as part of a large-scale Scrum transformation. So this pattern, the pattern that I'm going to talk about, the patterns I'm going to talk about, were actually repeated multiple times. Let's look at the initial situation. So we had a long time to market for new versions. There was typically 1 to 2 major releases per year. There was low customer satisfaction. People made jokes about yet another bad product from this organization. We had low team morale. In fact, there was conflict between some of the teams and even within some of the teams. There was poor performance and reliability of the product, and there was a traditional hierarchical bureaucracy actually producing the product, functional silo-based teams, traditional product management, project management, and so on. So what Scrum at scale concepts were used? Well, we had quite a lot of the Scrum at scale concepts were used. Multiple cross-functional teams were introduced, each with a development team, a Scrum Master, and a team product owner. We had a meta Scrum with chief product owner, team product owners, and stakeholders, and crucially, a single consolidated product backlog. The scaled daily Scrum meeting was used for basic coordination between teams, but also communities of practice were used extensively. So teams talking to each other. I know it's a radical concept, but I think it's really, really important to move away from the traditional approach where perhaps you have an architecture board making the major decisions towards teams actually taking responsibility for architecture, end-to-end testing, look and feel and things like that. But management need to demand alignment, of course, and that's where the concept of communities of practice come in place. I think that's a lot of the inter-team communication or cross-team coordination takes place through that mechanism. And of course, an executive action team. Senior people acting as a Scrum team, providing overall direction for the strategic implementation of the Agile approach, but also acting or providing a service for removing impediments so that the hard to crack organizational impediments to getting great results can actually be actioned. So Scrum Masters would come to this team and they'd get a lot of support. So some metrics and results. We established a set of metrics that were used by all of the teams in 4 categories: customer, team, quality, and progress. For customer, the key thing was customer satisfaction, but also conversion rate, the number of active users minus churn, of course. If you're gaining new customers but losing as many users as you're gaining, you're not making much progress. For the team, very simple approach, team happiness, 1 to 5, very, very widely used. So measured on a sprint by sprint basis, every single sprint. There's really no excuse for not measuring that. Quality, defects in production, really easy to measure, and defects that you capture during development. Of course, that's extremely interesting, but that's part of creating a great product. It's the defects that escape from your process into production that's really critical there. And velocity. A lot of people talk about velocity, and some people have some negative things to say about it, but I think it can be, if used carefully, a very, very useful way of measuring how far are we towards our strategic goal. So what happened after 6 months? After 6 months of a disciplined, scaled, agile approach? Well, App Store ratings had improved from an average of 1 to 2 stars to 4 to 5 stars. There were more active users. team morale had improved. Some of those instances of conflict had been handled by the teams themselves. In particular, we used Patrick Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions of a team approach to help teams to actually analyze their current situation and find out how to solve the problems themselves. And crucially, the product was actually awarded first place in a competitive review of comparable products in a major technical journal. So some of the lessons learned. Moving from functional silo-based teams to true cross-functional feature teams is really essential. When you can do that, finally you can actually start to deliver genuine product increments that actually represent business value. Moving from multiple per team product backlogs to a single product backlog finally provides the transparency about the true state of the product at any one time. And that was really helpful in terms of hitting deadlines, being able to finally release the product when desired. The use of the Meta Scrum, led by the chief product owner, enabled a holistic view of the product to be achieved and avoided some of the sub-optimizations you can have where every team has basically is doing their own thing based on their own backlog. Crucially, getting support from senior management was a really important thing. And we actually got buy-in from senior leadership to make it part of the personal target of senior leaders that they would attend a customized Scrum training. And some of them became champions. Some of them remained skeptics, but you only need a few champions to actually get the ship moving. And the executive action team was really valuable in helping to remove some of those organizational impediments. Thank you very much. I hope there are some parallels between your own situation and what we did at this particular company.
Sounds like since it was really successful in this organization, did it start to then go out to other parts of the org that maybe weren't failing? Were you able to prevent others from getting that failed state?
So this was this was really one of the lighthouse projects, a type of pilot effectively, for this particular organization. And this was the first lighthouse, but actually went on to many other business units within the organization. It's an ongoing situation. I'm currently doing coaching and training at the same organization. And in fact, after a while, it went beyond product development. So HR started actually using Scrum. The board, or the team of people who actually help the CEO to prepare for board meetings and so on, they started using some of the Scrum practices as well in terms of how they prepare those board meetings. So it went way beyond product development.
Question. You were talking about the lighthouse, bubbles, pilots. When you moved on to other people who didn't quite have that fortification around them, did they see the same results or similar results?
Well, certainly there were many examples of vastly improved customer satisfaction. There's also some situations where it didn't work. And I think it was interesting also that for the business units which were able to really get the best results from Scrum, I think there was a very strong correlation between how well the executives or the senior leaders within those parts of the organization were actually living Agile practice, living Agile values and principles. There was a employee survey introduced on a regular basis where they had to actually give their leaders a grade. How well are they doing in terms of living the Agile values, living compatible leadership values?
Wow.
And certainly the ones that were where Scrum was working were where the leaders actually were getting the best grades.
That's great.
Yeah.
What do you feel like was the biggest challenge to overcome, though, in this process? Was it getting them to do the initial 3 months, just try it for 3 months, or what was really the biggest challenge?
I think the biggest challenge. Well, there's two biggest challenges. They're at a different sort of level. One of the challenges is getting the stakeholders on board. And what we found is it's so important as part of kicking off a new team. The team gets a day of training, even if they've done certified Scrum Master, product owner, and so on classes, been through that already. The whole team gets a day of training before kicking off the new pilot. But also we try to involve as much as possible the key stakeholders there. And when we were able to do that, the whole thing worked better. So getting stakeholder buy-in is crucial. The other thing, as I think it's a very common thing in the industry, is succession management. If the most senior leadership changes, it can go for, if they are basically supporting the whole thing, if the CEO supports an Agile approach and practices Gemba, comes to sprint review meetings now and again, all that sort of thing, and then the senior leadership changes, that can of course be a major impediment to making it sticky, to having a sustainable success. And I've certainly seen that happen in many situations, and including in this particular company.